Okay, let's dive into the digital Wild West. It's a place where fortunes are made and lost in the blink of an eye. And the sheriffs, well, they're struggling to even write the law book, let alone enforce it. This is the story of the massive, borderless world of crypto and its head-on collision with the regulators trying to tame the beast.
Just look at this number, $1.25 trillion. No, that's not the economy of a country. That was the trading volume on a single crypto exchange, KuCoin, in just 1 year. If you want to grasp the scale of the challenge here, that number is really all you need to see.
And a number that big forces us to ask the big question, right? What happens when money and tech move this fast? What happens to the rules that were designed to protect all of us? I mean, how do you even begin to regulate a rocket ship when it's already halfway to the moon?
To get some answers, we're going to zoom in. We'll go from that huge global market down to a single national watchdog that is, well, sounding a very, very loud alarm.
And that watchdog is ASIC, the Australian Securities and Investments Commission. You can think of them as the financial sheriffs for all of Australia. Their job is to keep the markets in check and, more importantly, to be the first line of defense for everyday people, consumers and investors.
And in their big Key Issues Outlook report, ASIC did not pull any punches. They basically put the entire crypto industry on notice, pointing out some major financial risks that are just bubbling away under the surface of all this new tech.
And they were incredibly blunt about it. This quote really says it all. Consumers are being exposed to massive risks, not just because the industry is expanding, but because it's full of companies that are completely unlicensed. And that combo, well, it's a potential recipe for disaster.
So what's keeping them up at night? It really boils down to 4 big problems. First, the rules themselves are full of holes. They just weren't written for this kind of technology. Second, you've got tons of companies operating without any license at all. And third, and this is a really worrying part, some firms seem to be actively trying to dodge the rules, to stay in the shadows. All of that just creates this dangerous gray area where pretty much anything can happen. It's one thing to spot the problem, but it's a whole other thing to actually fix it. And to really get why this is so tough for regulators like ASIC, we need to zoom back out and just appreciate the mind-boggling scale of the industry they're trying to police.
So let's go back to that exchange I mentioned earlier, KuCoin. It's really the perfect example to help us understand the sheer size, the speed, and the complexity that these regulators are facing.
What's wild is how that $1 trillion breaks down. It's not just one type of activity. You've got over $500 billion in spot trading. That's basically just buying and selling the coins themselves. But then you have another $500 billion in derivatives, which are these super complex financial bets on where the prices will go. This isn't some simple little marketplace. It's a full-blown, incredibly complex financial machine. And this is where the complexity just explodes. You might think, oh, it's all about Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it's really not. The huge majority of all that trading is happening in what are called altcoins. We're talking thousands of other digital currencies, each with its own tech, its own community, and its own unique risks. How on earth is a regulator supposed to keep up with all of that?
And these platforms aren't just part of the market, they're actually outpacing it. KuCoin grew faster than the crypto market as a whole, grabbing a record amount of all trades. And get this, even when the rest of the market hit a slump, they kept the engine running at full speed. This isn't just a temporary bubble. It's a really powerful and persistent force in global finance.
So, okay, we've got massive scale and we've got incredible complexity. But the challenge for a national regulator like ASIC gets even harder. Why? Because this industry doesn't care about borders. It operates on a global stage, and it often gets tangled up in some pretty serious international politics. And right here is where the problem becomes so much bigger than just money. It's about how these borderless companies can even operate in a world that has very real borders, very real conflicts, and very real international laws. All of a sudden, one country's regulations can start to look kind of powerless.
Just take a look at the case of Whitebit, a Ukrainian crypto exchange. The contrast here is just incredible. On one hand, it's a massive supporter of Ukraine, donating millions itself and helping process over $160 million in donations for the war effort. But on the other hand, to Russia, it's been completely banned, labeled an undesirable organization. It's actually a crime for Russian citizens to use it. This leads us to a really fundamental, almost impossible question for these regulators. Right? If you're ASIC sitting in Australia, how in the world do you apply your national rules to a company like Whitebit, a company that's totally borderless, totally digital, and is now a key player in a major global war? So, when you're facing that kind of challenge, the insane scale, the complexity, the geopolitics, what can a regulator actually do? What are the next steps for an agency like ASIC?
So, what's their play? Well, right now, it's a bit like a game of political tennis. ASIC has basically lobbed the ball over to the Australian government side of the court. They're saying, hey, it's up to you lawmakers to decide how these new digital products should even be classified under our laws.
But they're not just sitting around waiting. They've got a three-part game plan. Step 1, await that government decision. Step 2, while they wait, keep a very close eye on anyone breaking the current rules. And step 3, focus on what they can control, which is making their existing licensing rules as clear and as strong as possible. It's a strategy of waiting, watching, and reinforcing the walls.
And so we're left watching this incredible race unfold. You've got financial innovation in the driver's seat, flooring it, with regulation in the rearview mirror, just trying to keep up. The outcome is anything but certain. But maybe the most important question isn't just about who wins the race. It's about who's being protected and who gets left behind on the side of the road.